Jon Jones. He reigned when the division was filled with killers, and he made them look ordinary. Shogun, Rampage, Machida, DC. All of them thought they had a chance. But they didn't. Before the world knew the name Bones, he was just Jonathan Dwight Jones, the skinny, awkward kid from upstate New York. Born to a pastor and raised in a strict home, Jon was always chasing greatness, maybe to stand out in the shadow of his brothers, both destined for the NFL. He didn't have their size, but what he did have was obsession. He had a solid wrestler's base, but creativity was his main weapon. Everything was going well, but suddenly his girlfriend became pregnant, and he lost his scholarship. He then got interested in MMA to avoid minimum wage jobs. At only 21 years old, he had his first professional fight. The prodigy had arrived, and he wasn't looking back. At 23 years old, he would have his first world championship fight against Mauricio Rua. He already had 12 dominant wins against fighters like 𝙁𝙀𝘼𝙍𝙀𝘍, Bonar, O'Brien, Vera, Matyushenko, and Bader. The fight in itself is a massacre. Jones is vicious, unpredictable, and creative. He is faster than Rua, has a longer reach, and dominates him on the ground, even though Rua is a jiu-jitsu black belt. He ends the fight with a brutal ground and pound and a devastating knee to the face. With this fight, it was obvious, Jon Jones is unique. To him, fighting isn't just a sport, it's a game of constant reinvention. If the rules don't favor him, he bends them. If an opponent is better in one area, Jon refuses to play by their rules. Instead, he turns unpredictable, creative, rewriting the fight in real time to force them into his world. His first title defense was against Rampage Jackson. Yet something was different.
I'm not here. So with Rampage Jackson, I kept having these nightmares that I would get knocked out. And no matter how the fight played out, I would always get knocked out.
And he was right to be scared. Jackson is an absolute machine. Therefore, in order to avoid an early knockout, he started the fight by crawling into the cage, and it worked. He got the first clinch, escaping the early round and gaining an advantage. But from there on, once again, the outcome was brutal. Jones began by targeting his opponent's recently injured knee. He kept him on the ground as much as possible, tiring him, and then remained as unpredictable as usual, causing a lot of damage. Ultimately, Jackson was exhausted, and Jones coldly choked him out, without showing any signs of difficulty throughout the fight. Even though he was facing the scariest fighter in the division, he seemed unstoppable. And he was. He won the next 6 fights with no difficulty, and then had perhaps the greatest rivalry in the history of the sport. Daniel Cormier is the heavyweight champion, and an ex-Olympic wrestler. When he becomes a light heavyweight fighter, he dominates the division until he earns his fight with Jones. This time, though, the fight is personal, and the fighters hold real animosity against each other. In a face-off, a dangerous fight erupts between the two, and Jon Jones ends up on top. In this interview where both fighters think the cameras are off, Bones shows a dark aspect of his personality never seen before.
I wish they would let me next door so I could spit in your face.
You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?
could never kill me.
Oh, I bet you I could.
The date is January 3rd, 2015. The atmosphere is electric. Bones stuffed takedowns, controlled the clinch, and broke Cormier mentally across 5 brutal rounds. When the dust settled, Jones had beaten one of his most dangerous challengers and made it look like just another day at the office. But for Daniel Cormier, the story wasn't over.
I will learn from my mistakes. That's the thing that I've shown over the course of my life. In mistakes, I learn from them.
Reshaping himself into a dominant champion while Jon Jones spiraled outside the cage. Suspensions, controversies, and self-destruction. It looked like the king had finally fallen. Yet when the rematch was booked for UFC 214, Jon Jones returned like a force of nature. This time there was no war of attrition, no slow breakdown. In the third round, Bones landed a devastating head kick that shattered Cormier's defenses and finished the job with ruthless ground and pound.
That could be it. That's it. He's out.
Jon Jones was still the undisputed master of the game. For nearly a decade, Jon Jones ruled the light heavyweight division with an iron grip. Legends fell one after another. Every style, every strength, Bones found a way to dismantle it. He ended his career as a light heavyweight undefeated, with 27 wins, a villain, a king, and maybe the greatest fighter the world has ever seen.